sensory and motor. Keyword pathway. Am I big on pathways? Yeah, okay, so we get more of the same pathways, okay? And then reflexes. Okay, we'll talk about reflexes later on. It's quicker than spinal cord. Okay, so now let's kind of harp on pathway. Sensory and motor. We saw that last week, yes? What is motor? Movement, right? Muscle movement, right? So what comes first, the sensory or the movement? The sensory. So information coming to the CNS, correct, is sensory. And so you have to give the brain information, and then to get to the brain though, because usually the sensory is, it's not just up here, but it's all over the body, correct? So if it's all over the body, let's say it's in the hands, it would have to go this way to the spinal cord, correct? And then it goes up to the brain. So it does involve the spinal cord. Then the brain processes information, and then what? Then it goes down the spinal cord to whatever muscle it needs to be activated. So that's the pathway that you're going to get for this week test. And then, of course, reflexes. Okay. The other thing to understand is that the spinal cord is independent from the brain. You know, the example I gave here where it's a pathway, yeah, just connected to the brain, but it can behave independently, and that's going to be the reflex. You don't need the brain for the spinal cord to work. You can read all this on your own. I'm going to ask you to know. Okay, let's look at the region of the spinal cord. Does this look familiar? What's the key word here? Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, coccygeal. Okay, did we talk about this already? Yeah, we sure did. Okay, so same name as the vertebral column, correct? Yes? Okay. The only thing you gotta understand is that it's not the same length. Say it again. They share the same name, but it's not the same length. Okay. The spinal cord is a lot shorter than the vertebral column. Okay. So write that down. What did I just say? Yeah. Spinal cord is shorter than the vertebral column. Okay. So the so let's just see. Oh, there it is. See, spinal cord is shorter than the vertebral column. And what's the ending of the spinal cord called? The cone. Cone is what? Medullaris. Yes. And then after that, it's just a bunch of nerves called the cauda equina, right? Sound familiar? And then there's one string from the cauda equina going on, in the cauda equina coming down, and that's the filum terminale to anchor the spinal cord to the bottom. Remember this? In the picture, it was like a yellow line. Okay. No, yeah, to anchor the conus medullaris to the coccyx, which is, where's the coccyx? The tailbone, right? Very tip. Okay. And lecture question: what makes up the filum terminale? Pia mater. Pia mater is what makes up the filum terminale. And where is pia mater? Is on the spinal cord itself, right? Remember, pia mater is on the surface of the spinal cord. It's the one that's tightly on the surface. Last hour I made it red. You guys remember? Okay. Okay. Whoops. So, how many pairs of spinal nerves? 31. And why do we call them pairs? Good. Because there's right and left. Okay. There we go. Here's the picture. I know it's a craft, but you can see, right? What did we start with? C1, 2, C8, and then T1 through T12, L1 through L5, and S1 dot dot dot. Okay. So, who remembers how many thoracic vertebrae do we have? 12. This lines up with the 12 thoracic vertebrae in terms of numbering. Okay, so that's the same. How many lumbar vertebrae do we have? 5. And there are 5 lumbar nerves, right? You haven't had this yet, but it's in this week's lab. How many cervical vertebrae do we have? 7. 7. How many nerves do we have? 8. Okay, so that's the one exception, okay? Gotta remember the exception. It's the cervical nerves, there are 8, but there are only 7, what? There are only 7 vertebra. Okay. Okay. And then the rest, you just have to remember this. S1 through S5, and then 1 constitutive unit. Okay, now, remember I was telling you the spinal cord is shorter than the vertebral column? Where does it end? L1. Agree? L1. L1, well, T12 and L1, approximately there, correct? So that's where the spinal cord ends, somewhere between T12 and L1. So can you find that on your body? What do you guys think? Yeah, you can feel your ribs, agree? You can feel your ribs. Once you stop feeling your ribs, you know that that's it, and that's somewhere there is going to be the ending of your spinal cord. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's pretty short compared to the vertebral column. Okay, so let's do a thinking question here. I want you to pair up. So we talk about an epidural, right? You give to a pregnant woman because she's going to deliver and you want to block her pain. And basically what it is let me tell you the technique. They have the patient curl up into a ball. Because when you curl into a ball, the spinous process opens up. Okay? So instead of the spinous process all laying on top of each other like this, when you curl into a ball, the spinous process opens up like that. Does that make sense? You understand? So instead of all the spinous process lining up like this, when you bend, the spinous process have more room, right? And so anyway, at that point, the anesthesiologist, that's the doctor that puts you to sleep, he's also the pain specialist, they insert a needle. So they feel the spinous process, and when it opens up, they then go into the soft area between the spinous process, and they insert in a needle. And their whole thing is to get into that fatty area. You guys remember what I showed you in lab? In the fatty area to put in the drugs. Okay. So, consult with your neighbor. At what level do you think you should, the anesthesiologist should go in? What level? What spinous process? I mean, do you want to go up here? You want to go here? You want to go here? You want to go, I mean, what level? Okay. All right, go ahead. A minute, talk to you.
Definitely want to go like
Okay, and if there's like one person by him or herself, can you guys join in?
because that'd be like the largest.
Amanda?
I'm like, I'm pretty sure I got it right here.
Feel your ribs. Do you know which one? No, I'm pretty sure you go for the larger spinous. The larger vertebra.
But wouldn't you want it to hit the lower parts? Because you don't want it to you want it to be, wouldn't it be like the bottom?
Yeah, this is the larger. Yeah, because the larger your vertebra, the more space you'll probably have between them. So it's like you have a better chance of getting it.
So like T11 and T12?
It's like, yeah, between T11 and L11.
Okay, so if they do it that way, can they do it that way? Because I'm like trying to, I thought I got it down. further than up high there.
Scary anesthesiologist.
I think, I don't remember. I was scared. I don't want that needle.
Hey, alright, so,
It's worse.
you guys all come up with some answer, some kind of answer? Alright, so let's, I'll show you. So 1 finger if you want cervical, 2 fingers if you want thoracic, 3 fingers if you want lumbar, and 4 fingers if you want down here. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, or 4. Show me how many, where I should go.
Speed's reading.
Okay, everyone seemed to say 3, which is lumbar, right? Why?
This is larger. You have more space.
Because that's where.
I mean, you're correct, I agree, it should be lumbar, I just gotta listen to your reasoning, because it's not just about getting the right answer, it's about why, how you got the right answer, right?
Sorry, that because it's
The
open.
process, the plexus. You mean this stuff? Help with the pain? Okay, so you're saying the pain is down here? Okay. Okay, all right, so yes, the pain is down here, agreed? So the nerve response for that pain is here, so that could be a good reason why you choose lumbar. Someone else have a different reason why you choose lumbar.
There's those spinal cord
Yeah, what about the spinal cord?
that it's not right there.
Correct. Okay. Because you're putting a needle in, could you possibly miss and go too far? Do you want to poke the spinal cord? Negative. So anything in the lumbar should be safe, right? There are no more spinal cord. That makes sense? So yeah, that's another good reason why you want to go in that region, okay, in the lumbar region. Okay. So it's all on anatomy, isn't it? If you understand your anatomy, a lot of the stuff you can logic out. So I gave you an example of epidural. I can also give you an example of spinal tap. You guys heard of something called spinal tap? Okay. Yeah, a bad spinal tap is when you have a bloody spinal tap is a bad spinal tap. A good spinal tap is not bloody. So spinal, get it? Spine. Tap, you're tapping in to get what?
CSF.
Exactly, to get CSF. Okay, so spinal tap. To get CSF. Here's another anatomy. Where is the CSF? In the subarachnoid. Finish it up for me, subarachnoid. Space. Good. Which means you're going to have to puncture what? Hang on. Okay, another thinking question. Okay, so consult with your group again. I'm going to do the spinal tap. Get CSF. You know CSF is in the subarachnoid space. Okay, so now same question. Where do you want to go? 1, 2, 3, 4. And what will you puncture to get there? Okay. So go ahead, talk to your neighbor. Where do you want to go and what will you puncture?
To get CSF. Yeah, because it's only there. Spinal tap because. What do they use that for?
So like, see, I guess. Look, I watch House. So they do that all the time.
And where do they do it?
I don't know, they have them curl up.
So,
It would definitely be like
But how would you get it? You can't do it in the lumbar region, right? If the spinal cord's not there, because there's no CSF there. Isn't it only around the?
Yeah, but you definitely have to be, because if the lumbar doesn't have the sheath around it, that means it doesn't have the which has subarachnoid.
The what doesn't have that?
The lumbar, because if it's like spitting it all out, right, so you have to go in the thoracic.
How about the cuneus medullaris, since it's the end?
Okay.
What?
All right. You guys have an answer?
Tap it through the hand.
Kind of?
It doesn't like leak out, or it comes back out.
No, I
Okay,
know.
so once again,
But
let's
wouldn't
talk
that
about the
be
level.
same
1, 2, 3, or 4. Show me with your fingers. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Or lumbar tap. Or spinal tap. Gave the answer away.
Oh, I changed my mind.
It's lumbar. It's called a lumbar tap as well. Okay.
Oh,
Okay, so a spinal tap, oftentimes we would call it lumbar tap. Okay, so why do I go to the lumbar region? Exactly, because you don't want to hit the spinal cord by mistake, all right? Very important, do not puncture the spinal cord. Okay, now, what structure will you puncture? The dura mater for sure. Okay, and the arachnoid.
I was surprised to see that the CSF is clear.
It's clear?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be clear?
It's what?
Remember, it came from what? CSF came from what? Last week I asked you this. Blood plasma. Is plasma clear?
I thought it was more yellow.
Yeah, it's called straw color, kind of yellowish, but you know, a yellow, very light yellow fluid is clear.
Yeah.
So you can't say, oh no, that's slightly yellow. Our eyes cannot distinguish slightly yellow versus clear. Okay. So yeah, that's why CSF. And that's a good tap. A bad tap when it's bloody. Why? Why is it bloody?
There's meningitis.
Because you hit a blood vessel. You don't know if it's an artery or a vein, but you hit a blood vessel, right? And that's when you came back blood, and which is no good. You gotta redo it again. Okay. All right. So why? Why in the world would you have to do a spinal tap?
Research,
Research?
sometimes it's research.
Well, you know, I don't know how many volunteer to come in and really volunteer for a spinal tap. Who wants to research? You would, Jeremy?
No. I used to work at a clinical trials and they would get paid like, I think like $2,000 a week, maybe $3,000.
Okay. All right. So yes, could be research purposes, but majority of the correct. Okay. So let's look at meningitis. What is itis? I-T-I-S. Inflammation. Good. Of what? Meningitis is inflammation of the meninges, right? What are the meninges? The three layers, correct? What? Dura, arachnoid, and pia. So if you have inflammation of one of these meninges, do you think it would show up on the CSF? Yeah.
Protein, right?
It would show up as white blood cells. Because remember, inflammation is usually an infection, correct? And if you have an infection going on in the meninges, you would have white blood cells coming to the site to try to take control of the infection, which means there will be white blood cells in your CSF. Wholly abnormal. You do not have white blood cells. Why would you need white blood cells if you're not infected?
And usually that's the most priority blood plasma, right? Like,
Well, you have
At least
white blood
for
cells
some
in blood,
people.
yes, but it doesn't need to go into the CSF unless you have an infection, correct? So the white blood cell stays in the blood, and yeah, it goes into tissue, but there's no need for white blood cells in CSF unless you have an active infection. So that's why they do a spinal tap, to see if you have meningitis, which is an infection of the meninges. Okay? All right, one last thing. How do you think you would test for meningitis? Let's say you don't have a tab, you're just a regular person on the street, you don't have a needle with you. What do you think? No? There's a very simple test. I'll give you a hint. Where's the meninge? All over brain and spinal cord, right? If something is inflamed, would moving it cause pain?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I give you a hint. What movement would cause pain?
Your neck.
Moving your neck.
Moving your neck, yes. And the best way is to do this. They tell you to touch your chin to your chest, because when you do this, are you stretching that meninge around the spinal cord? You think that would cause pain if you have an inflammation? Yeah. And the person say, no, I can't, it's hurt too much. And so that's usually a telltale sign. You probably have meningitis, especially in companies with fever, chills, stuff like that. Okay. So it's a really quick test, and if that's the case, then you got to confirm it with a spinal tap. So the ER doc would say, okay, prep you for a spinal tap, and then they're going to test your CSF. Okay, make sense? All right, let's move on. This is real cadaver cerebellum. Okay, where's the cerebellum? Good, back of the brain, right? And then all of this would be the pons medulla, right? And then coming down, that's the spinal cord. Make sense? See why they call it rootlets? Little tiny rootlets. And little tiny rootlets. Hey, and it's coming out of the spinal cord. Now, they call this posterior. What does that mean?
Dorsal.
Dorsal, good. Anatomy question. What did you have to cut to show this? Okay, once again, consult with your neighbor. My question is, what do I have to cut to show you all of this? In other words, what's removed from this cadaver?
And the rib cells, right? Where's all the vertebrae? Right, because they're like the spinal cord's like anterior to the. Oh yeah. It's not a good Monday morning.
You guys aren't talking very loud, so you guys have any idea what you have to remove to show this? Alright, so tell me.
Vertebra.
Okay, you have to remove the whole vertebra? The whole thing?
Well, the spine.
The spine process, good. Gotta remove the spine process, I agree. So what is that area that you cut? You're gonna cut at the spine process? No, you're gonna cut
The transverse.
transverse?
No, the
Intervertebral foramen?
The body. No.
I don't see spinal nerve coming out here, guys. Right? You see spinal nerve coming out? You only see rootlets, agree? So for it to be intervertebral foramen, I want to see the spinal nerve, and I don't see it here. Which means you didn't get to that point. Does that make sense? Okay, so you said you have to take out the spinous process, I agree. So then my question is, where do I cut? I'm just gonna cut right through the spinous process? No, I don't wanna do that. And remember, just like in anything in real life, the less you have to cut, the easier, right? The thicker the object, the harder it is to cut.
Are you gonna cut
Cut the,
the pedicles?
no, not pedicle, the lamina. Yes. Hey, so, hey, I need you guys to pull things together. What the heck is a lamina?
Oh,
That's where you guys are stuck. What the heck is a lamina?
I'm all.
It's the tube surface where the spinal process is in the middle, right? You run your finger like this, the spinal process in the middle,
Yeah.
and you're gonna run down the lamina. Make sense? And so, yeah, that's when you cut the lamina. In fact, it's called a laminectomy.
Oh.
Oh. Laminectomy. And in medical terminology, what's an ectomy? Removal. You cut, right? So you're cutting and removing the lamina to show this picture. Okay? So this is my kind of questions on the test, because I test your understanding of anatomy, not your memorization. Okay? Everything fits together. Hey, ooh, I see this white line right here. What might that be? You're like, what? Yeah, you see a white line? There's a white line right there.
Oh, that.
Yeah, very good. That's a dura mater. Okay, that's a dura mater. So we remove the lamina, right? And then we're gonna cut through the dura mater to show this picture. And you just see a multiple choice. That'd be actually a pretty good multiple choice question for next time, next class. Okay, what did I cut to show this picture? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, anyway, let's go down to the other end. How do I notice the other end? Yeah, bottom terminality, caudiclina, right?
Conus medullaris.
Yep, okay. And then this is the dura mater reflected, meaning I cut it and open it like a book, right? Show you all that good stuff. Okay, all right. Let me see here. Okay. Does this picture look familiar? Yeah. I feel like we've exhausted this, so I don't want to spend any more time talking about it unless you guys have questions. Please look at all of these labels. Does it make sense? In other words, can you label on your own without the labels? Yes, I hope, yeah? Okay. Because we just covered all this stuff already, right? Okay. So that's one view. Okay, so what do you guys think? This is a cross-section through the spinal cord of who? Superman? Yeah, Superman flying to you, right? So what is this hole here? Intervertebral foramen. Spinal nerve comes out the intervertebral foramen. Remember? Okay. So right and left. Intervertebral foramen is where the spinal nerve comes out. Okay. All right. What is this picture showing you? It's showing you spinal cord, yeah? And how is this spinal cord going? It's running up and down, okay? Running up and down. What's missing? What don't you see compared to the last picture? The vertebra, right? So we completely took away the vertebra. Make sense? Okay. How many pairs of spinal nerves do you see? With your finger, tell me how many pairs of spinal nerves do you see? Now, how come not everyone's voting here? It's not that hard of a question, guys. I see 3. Here's one pair, here's another pair, here's another pair, right? So 3 pairs of spinal nerve. Guys, understand? Yeah, question?
What I wasn't sure about is, to Are the posterior and anterior paired, or is it a pair on each side?
No, I said spinal nerves. Okay, spinal nerves. What is spinal nerve? Is this area right here. Spinal nerve is made up of the two roots, right? The two roots. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's just focus on from the spinal nerve medial. Okay. From the spinal nerve going medial. Spinal nerve. What is bump? Ganglion, right? So that makes it what root? The posterior or dorsal root. Agree? And then it flares out to become rootlets. That makes this what root? The anterior or the ventral root. And these will be the anterior rootlets. Agree? And look at where it comes into the spinal cord. Interestingly, it goes here to the gray matter. And then this is the, what? This is posterior median sulcus. Okay. Yeah, so the spinal cord, get these rootlets coming out right here and coming in that way. Okay, now remember, we talked about how sensory versus motor, agree? So I taught you posterior cell body of what kind of neuron? Sensory or motor? Sensory. Sensory. Ganglion. And this is sensory. Sensory neuron coming in. And then it goes this way. Does that make sense? And then it's going to go to here. Okay. What is here? This is what? What do you call gray matter in spinal cord? A horn. What's that horn? Posterior horn. So everything posterior, you think sensory. You guys understand? Everything posterior, think sensory. Which makes anterior what? Motor. Exactly, motor. Commit that to memory. Everything. So here, what is this? Anterior. Hello? Anterior horn. And it's going to go out the anterior root and out the spinal nerve. And this is going to be motor. Okay? So the blue is the sensory neuron, the red is the motor neuron. Now, where is the cell body of a motor neuron?
In the ganglion.
No. Motor neuron. Motor neuron.
Muscle.
That dot, right? What is that? Where is that dot? Gray matter. What is this area here called? Anterior horn. So everything anterior horn, anterior rootlets, anterior root, you think motor. Is motor afferent or efferent? Efferent. Good. Now, these are recurring terminology, correct? Yeah, I can't forget it. Okay? Alright, so let me tell you what happens now. If you have a reflex, the simplest reflex is just a sensory neuron and a motor neuron. So if this connected here, that's it, that's a reflex. Into the nerve, the spinal cord and out. That would be a reflex. So a reflex is a minimum of 2 neurons. And what are the two neurons? Sensory and motor. Sometimes we have more complicated reflexes. That includes more than two. More complex would be 3+ neurons. So, where would be, so we have number 1, number 2, right? What might be number 3? Yeah, what is that word for in between? Inter, exactly. So here we go. So if I drew an interneuron here to here, now I have a little more complicated reflex, okay, because it has an interneuron. Does it bypass the brain? Does it have to go to the brain? Does the reflex have to go to the brain?
Yes.
No. No. So reflex, no brain. Nerve. You guys get it? It's a no-brainer. Oh, come on. You guys didn't get that? You don't even think about it, right? Hey, how many times you go to the doctor's office, you sit there on the table, and then they hit your knee, and then your leg goes jerking out? Is that a reflex?
Yes.
Do you have to think about it? No, so it's a no-brainer, correct? Because does it involve your brain at all? No. This is the loop it takes. Sensory neuron, the doctor hit your knee, and the action, your leg comes out, right? That's the motor. Does that make sense? And that's the reflex, that's all it is, very simple. Okay? All right.
Where's the interneuron located? Oh, it's in the.
In between, right? Get it? Inter means in between. Okay? And so the interneuron, what do you guys think, true or false? I haven't done this in a while. True or false? Interneurons in a reflex or in the nervous system must be in CNS. True or false? Interneurons must be in the CNS. True or false? Alright, you guys are all over the board. Okay, so talk to your neighbor. You guys are all over the board. Talk to your neighbors.